Thank you for watching. After the sort of necessary break, pause, please welcome Julie Donaldson, Ruchira Das, talking about how children can be brought back to books. Julie Donaldson, ladies and gentlemen.
It's these. Oh.
Thank you. Which side shall I sit? This side? I don't know. I might sit this side. Is that this side?
Don't worry, don't over
Sorry? Okay.
Hello? No.
Shall we tell them not to switch off their phones?
Yes, to figure, is this on? Yes. Hello, everyone. And yeah, before anything else, please, if you could keep your phones on silent and enjoy this conversation in entirety. Welcome, Julia, and it's so wonderful to be sitting here talking to you. And before anything else, thank you so much for the treat yesterday. It was absolutely fabulous. Gruffalo and friends on stage in Kolkata.
I must say it's the most beautiful venue I've ever been in. I love these letters hanging down. I love the way they're some Roman letters and some Hindi letters.
Bangla,
Beautiful colours. So such a special occasion.
Thank you. So, well, we want to talk about children and reading and books. Maybe it's good to just talk a little bit about your journey and your process. And so you started off as a songwriter, is that right?
Yes,
so
I studied drama and French at university. And as part of my course, we were sent to France for 6 months to improve our French. And while I was in France, which was very expensive then for a student, I went busking with a girlfriend. So we went to the Champs-Élysées and we had a big hat and we would sing. We only could play a few chords on the guitar. And we would sing things like Blowing in the Wind, Green Sleeves, and so on. And then we got a letter from a friend of ours who was a medical student, and there he is, aged 20-something. But I think we should welcome him in the flesh because he's here, and here he comes. And he's my husband of 45 years. We've been married for 45 years now. So when Malcolm came out to Paris, suddenly we could sing all these different songs. So we just stand here and do a little medley, maybe, some of the songs. We did, there was one by
we did
Frank Sinatra.
We do, Wouldn't It Be Lovely?
Oh yes, all I want is a room somewhere far away from the cold night air, with one enormous chair. Wouldn't it be lovely? We did songs from shows. That was from My Fair Lady. We did
I know I stand in line until you think.
That one again.
No, you're right.
I know I stand in line until you think you have the time to spend an evening with me.
But if we go someplace to dance, I know that there's a chance you won't be leaving with me. Then afterwards we drop into some quiet little place and have a drink or two. And then I go and spoil it all by saying something stupid like I love you. Sorry, Frank Sinatra.
I even wrote a song in French, which really, if you don't speak French, it just says, you are French, we are the mad English, we will sing for you if you give us your money. So the chorus went like this.
Vous êtes français et nous ne sommes que des Anglais fous. Nous chanterons pour vous si vous nous donnez vos sous.
and so on. Anyway, so yes, when we got back home, we missed the performing, and so we were still students, but we would sing at student dinners, and we would, student dances, student balls, and we would do cabaret. We had advertised to do cabaret for anyone, and so I would do things like write a song about teeth to sing to some dentists. And gradually I got a lot of songs, and some of them were suitable for children. So I sent a tape of songs to the BBC, and they started commissioning me to write songs for them. And one of the songs they wanted me to write was based on a traditional tale about a little old lady who thinks her house is too small. Here's the chorus. I think, we're going to actually perform this song, and we need to have 2 people from the audience. We've got a cow, we've got a pig. We would like to have 2 people in the audience to act a hen and a goat. So put up your hand if you'd like to be the hen and the goat. Or should we have a child to be the hen? Maybe, would you like to be the hen? Can you find your way round? Felicity will help. And maybe a dad to be the goat. I think it'd be quite funny to have a dad. Who's got a dad here? Or a man who would be the goat? Oh, come on, we can't have just women volunteering for everything. Must have some men. You're well, all right. So are you volunteering, or are you volunteering your son? All right. Well, I think if there's a dad. Let's have. I think this we'll have this dad. All right. Good. So I think we need to just take this table away, and perhaps if we can get 2 people to do that for us. Maybe if you 2 do that, we just move it back, and I'll practice the chorus with you. So the chorus goes, wise old man. It's gone, it's disappeared. Can we have the chorus slide, B, please? Yeah, here we are. Wise old man, won't you help me, please? My house is a squash and a squeeze. And it's got guitar accompaniment. Let's just keep the performers there for a moment while we practice the chorus. All right, so the chorus goes, let's try it with the music. Wise old man, won't you help me, please? My house is a squash and a squeeze. Can we all try that together? Wise old man, won't you help me, please? My house is a squash and a squeeze. You'll get the hang of it because it comes quite often. Let's put the old lady's table in the middle here. I'm the old lady. We've got a hat for the wise old man.
You have your apron.
And I don't need these yet.
Your apron. Yeah.
I've got an apron. So we'll have a little short practice, shall we, of the things that happen. You're all in the field with the wise old man, so if you go over, move
Actually,
over.
that's maybe a safer field down there.
Sorry?
It's a safer field. There's proper stairs.
Okay, all right, so the field's over there. And when the hen comes into the house, the hen is going to lay an egg. Can you lay a nice egg for me? A bit more, very good. And then can you flap round the table, flap round the room like this, and maybe going, can you have some hen noises? Can you make a noise like a hen? Have a little go. Well, maybe we'll get inspired when the time comes. Okay. And then the goat is going to have a little practice. The goat is going to tread on the hen's egg, big stamp, nibble the table leg, and you're so cross, your egg has been smashed. You're going to chase the goat round and round the table. You can stand up actually now, I think. You can stand. And you've got fleas. You brought fleas into her, so you're scratching yourself. That's right. And you can make some goat noises.
You said...
Can you? Very good. Okay, and then we're going to have the pig. We don't need to practice the pig because Felicity is so good. She's done it before. And then you're very kindly going to be the cow. And the cow chases the pig who's chasing the others. And then at the end, we'll help you up. You're going to stand on the table. Yeah, and do a little dance, all right? And when you see her do her dance, we're all going to do a little dance. Okay, all right, let's get you in position to start.
So I think right down onto the...
So this was long before I dreamed of writing any books. This was just a song for children's television. Okay.
I'm just retuning because, of course, we're not used to the heat. It's so wonderfully warm. The guitar just needs a bit of retuning, but that's it. Off we go.
A little old lady lives all by herself with a table and chair and a jug on the shelf. A wise old man heard her grumble and grouse. There's not enough room in my house.
She said,
Wise old man, won't you help me please? My house is a squash and a squeeze.
take in your hand,
said the wise old man. Take in my hen, what a curious plan. Well, the hen laid an egg on the far side rug, then flapped round the room, knocking over the jug. Flap your wings. The little old lady cried, what shall I do? Keep going, it was tiny for one and it's titty for two. My nose has a tickle and there's no room to sneeze. My house is a squash and a squeeze. And she said, wise old man, won't you help me please? My house is a squash and a squeeze.
taking your goat,
Said the wise old man, taking my goat, what a curious plan. Well, the goat chewed the curtains first. He's going too fast. The goat chewed the curtains and trod on the egg. Then sat down and nibbled the table leg. The little old lady cried, woe is me, it was tiny for one and it's titty for three. The hen pecks the goat, you chase the goat, and the goat's got fleas. My house is a squash and a squeeze. And she said, wise old man, won't you help me please? My house is a squash and a squeeze. Oh, whatever next?
taking your pig.
You're still in the
No,
house.
you're still on there.
Keep going. Make your noises. Keep running. Scratching.
Taking your pig,
Said the wise old man, take in my pig, what a curious plan. So she took in the pig, who kept chasing the hen. Can we have some noises from you all? And raiding the larder again and again. The little old lady cried, stop, I implore. It was titty for three and it's teeny for four. Even the pig in the larder agrees. My house is a squash and a squeeze. And she said, wise old man, won't you help me please? My house is a squash and a squeeze.
taking your cow,
Said the wise old man, take in my cow, what a curious plan. Well, the cow took one look and charged straight at the pig. Noises? Moo. Then jumped on the table and tapped out a jig. The little old lady cried, heavens alive, it was teeny for four and it's weeny for five. I'm tearing my hair out, I'm down on my knees. My house is a squash and a squeeze. And she said, wise old man, won't you help me please? My house is a squash and a squeeze. said the wise old man. But then I'll be back where I first began. So she opened a window and out flew the hen. That's better, at last I can sneeze again. Choo! She shooed out the goat and she shoved out the pig. My house is beginning to feel pretty big. She huffed and she puffed and she pushed out the cow. Just look at my house. It's enormous now. Thank you, old man, for the work you have done. It was weeny for 5, it's gigantic for 1.
There's no need to grumble, and there's no need to grouse. There's plenty of room in my house, and now she's full of frolics and fiddly-dees. It isn't a squash and it isn't a squeeze. Yes, she's full of frolics and fiddly-dees. It isn't a squash or a squeeze.
I think we should have a big clap for the animals. Come and take a bow. Let's have a big clap for the farmyard animals. 1, 2, 3, bow. Very good. Thank you very much. Right, maybe we should get our table back again. I'll take my apron off. There we are. I don't dare do this by myself. I think I'll... So actually, after that song was on television several times, but about 15 years later, I had a phone call from a publisher saying, could they make the words of my song into a picture book? And I pretended to be very cool. I said, yes, I think so. Yes, I'll have to read the small print. You know. Then I put down the phone, and I was dancing about the room. I was so excited. And this editor, she'd had the BBC tape when her children were little, and she couldn't get this song out of her head. And when she was a picture book editor, she thought that story would make a good picture book. So this was my very first book. So luckily, I didn't have to send it to a publisher. I was approached, which was very nice. I have done lots of sending manuscripts, out since then. And it's also in this book, I think. We could have the next slide. I think, have we got a slide of A Treasury of Songs? Yes, that song is now in this book, which I'm really proud of because it's a collection of all my songs. Some of them go with the books, and some of them are ones I wrote earlier.
That was wonderful. Thank you. I never
Thank
thought
you
I
for
could
being
be
a
a cow on a
dancing
table.
cow. You've got very good cow,
Cowy colours,
black and
yes.
white colours, yes.
And I can spot someone very famous there, Gruffalo. Was he your next book? Was it Gruffalo, he, she, it?
The Gruffalo is he. The Gruffalo's child is she.
Yes.
Okay. Well, it wasn't quite as straightforward as that because before A Squash and a Squeeze was made into a book, I had written a lot of very short plays for my son's primary school, and I had them in a drawer, and because A Squash and a Squeeze was published, I had the audacity then to send these plays to an educational publisher. So then I started getting some work writing to commission, a bit like writing the songs. They would say, can you write some plays based on traditional tales or things like that? And so I think I wrote 15 short little books for educational publishers. And then I was asked to write some plays based on traditional tales, and I came across a story about a girl and a tiger. I think it exists in lots of languages, but I think it's originally Chinese. And I thought, no, I won't. I'll save this, and I'll maybe turn this into another picture book, and I changed the tiger into the Gruffalo. So that's how I did the Gruffalo. So I had quite a lot of other books published, but they were all educational books. So I have got some slides to show how the Gruffalo. Okay, yeah, this is a slide. This is my notebook for the Gruffalo, and you can see I didn't just get the idea of a monster with purple prickles and a black tongue. You know, I had to just think, what's going to rhyme? How can I describe him? He could look like whatever I wanted him to look like. So down this side, I've got nose, horns, spots, stripes, eyes, feet, legs, etc. Anything I could think of, colours, blue, red, etc. And then anything that rhymed could be in, possibly. If it wouldn't rhyme, it was out. So I've got back and black there. And originally I had his wings are orange, what is that, tummy? His tummy is black. He has spots and spines all over his back. Well, that changed to his eyes are orange, his tongue is black. He has purple prickles all over his back. So there was a lot of crafting. Went up pages and pages and pages and pages in this notebook. I think, have I got another one? No. Yes, so a lot of doodling, a lot of stuff that wasn't very good. The silly old fox and owl and snake, they didn't need to shiver and shake. All of them really ought to know. My favourite food is Gruffalo. That never got in. I'm glad it didn't. Here we and then at the end, I've got all was quiet in the deep dark wood. Mouse ate the nut, and the nut was good. Delicious, he squeaked, as his eyes dropped shut. My favourite food is hazelnut. I left out that last, couplet. So there was a lot of crafting, and then same with Axel. I think we've got some slides now of Axel's pictures. These are his first. This is a photocopy of his sketchbook. I'll maybe go over this side. So the mouse. Can anyone spot the difference between the mouse there and the mouse we ended up with? Does that look like? Oh, actually, Malcolm's in the way. Does that look like the mouse in the Gruffalo? Yes? No. What's the difference? Big difference. You can see the difference. Yes, he's got clothes on, and even the fox was going to have a long coat. There was even a picture of the Gruffalo in a sort of T-shirt. Oh no, not yet. Actually, we go back to the first one. But I think it's because Axel is German, and although he's so good at English, and he lives in London, but because the Gruffalo starts, a mouse took a stroll through the deep dark wood, a fox saw the mouse, and the mouse looked good. He maybe thought the mouse looked good in his lederhosen and his, checked shirt. But luckily the editor and I agreed. We outnumbered Axel, and we said, no, please, could these animals just look like woodland creatures? He got his own back, though, in several other books. He said, these animals are going to have clothes. He does like doing animals with clothes. So yes, we could have the next slide now, perhaps. So you can see originally the Gruffalo, I don't know, I think there he looks a bit like an ogre or something. There, I think the publisher thought he looked too scary. He looks a bit too much like a man, maybe. That's quite funny. So he needed to look a little bit more just stupid, not scary, yes, but a bit. He's not the brightest. Yeah, so I think all of this happened before. I think we'll come on to this in a minute. Okay.
That's fun, fantastic listening to how Gruffalo actually emerged and
Is your microphone working?
Yes, yeah. So this was great to get the sneak peek into your notebooks. Thank you for that. But so once you've decided and the words and the pictures, how do you? What's the next step?
Well,
When you are happy that this is how you want them to look.
yes, when you're happy
how
with
to
the
place.
character sketch, because
Exactly.
the first stage is those character sketches, and then when you're happy with how the characters are going to look, well, I don't know if you know this, but most picture books have just 12 spreads. So this is, I mustn't keep standing. This is spread 1. We don't talk about page 1, page 2. We talk about spread 1, spread 2. And you usually try to have a little, like a cliffhanger. So here we've got, it's terribly kind of you, Fox, but no, I'm going to have lunch with a Gruffalo. A Gruffalo? What's a Gruffalo? A Gruffalo, why didn't you know? Turn the page. So a lot of work goes into how to divide the text up. So usually there's 12 spreads. Some of my books, like I think Stickman, there's 15 spreads. They managed to cut the paper differently or something. So I thought I've got some quite interesting slides of Stickman to explain how then it comes to fill those 12 or 15 spreads. So what happens is, can we go back to the slide before that, please? So here we have, I think I typed out the text, Stickman with illustration directions by Julia Donaldson. Spread 1, I think I decided this time, sometimes it's the publisher. Spread 1, Stickman lives in the family tree with his stick lady love and their stick children 3. One day he wakes early and goes for a jog. Stickman, oh Stickman, beware of the dog. So I've done that, and then at the side, the editor has done a little picture of the double-page spread with a sort of like, this will be a full-page illustration with the tree and some little vignettes there. So we're going to look at the second spread. Second spread, spread 2, says, a stick, barks the dog. An excellent stick, the right kind of stick for my favourite trick. I'll fetch it and drop it and fetch it, and then I'll drop it and fetch it and drop it again. So originally, Axel did this picture, this rough picture. So it was a stick barks a dog, an excellent stick, the right kind of stick for my favourite stick, trick. I'll fetch it and drop it and fetch it, and then I'll drop it and fetch it and drop it again. Oh, and then on this side, it's I'm not a stick. Why can't they see? I'm Stickman, I'm Stickman, I'm Stickman, that's me. And I want to go home to the family tree. Well, the editor and I, we were quite happy with the dog pictures. But on this side, I think the editor thought that this girl, she's nothing to do with the story. She's too big, she's in the foreground, and maybe Stickman isn't central enough. So we fed those comments back to Axel, and then he came up with the next. There we are. So that's the left-hand side finished off. And the right-hand side, the girl is now sitting on a bench just doing up her trainers. Stickman looks more prominent. So there a lot of work goes into each page.
Oh, that's fabulous. How you have to think of the words, the suspense, the pictures, how to place them. But it must be a lot of hard work for Axel Scheffler, your illustrator. Does he use a computer?
Axel doesn't use a computer. I have several illustrators, and I don't really understand how it works with the computer. Sometimes the publisher manages to do this and that. But when Axel did Room on the Broom, he got very frustrated. He was tearing at his hair because he wasn't happy with the skies he'd painted. And I went to his house once, and he had a pile this high of discarded pictures of skies, stormy skies. But he did lend me these slides. So this is how he works. This was Stickman again. Can we just see the next Stickman picture? So he starts off in pencil, doing, this is a fireplace scene when Stickman nearly gets burnt. Then he does the outlines in black ink. I think he rubs out those pencil lines. Then he colours it in with watercolour, the sort of background. Then he does a bit more watercolour, nearly there. And then at the very end, he has some lovely coloured pencils, and he finishes it off, and just to give it more warmth and more depth. So lots of hard work. I sometimes feel guilty because I've done all my stuff really then, and then he or whatever illustrator has months of hard work doing all the illustrations.
They're fabulous, and they just look so right for your books. The
Yes,
illustrations.
he's a lovely illustrator because he's very modest. You know, a lot of illustrators, I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with this, but a lot of illustrators really want to put their stamp, their character on it, and sometimes it can be a bit overpowering if you have a very stylish illustrator. And Axel, he has got his own style, but he very much, you know, he's very true to nature, and whatever colours are required, he doesn't say, I just do grey with a touch of red or something. You know, he's just very humble in his own way. So talented.
Yeah, very talented, definitely. And who decides on what the cover would be?
Oh, okay,
It
the
would be a
cover.
tough decision.
Yeah. Well, I've got. This is the cover of the Gruffalo that we ended up with, but I've got a picture. Axel really, really didn't want the Gruffalo on the front, and he said, no, we don't know the Gruffalo exists. It must be a surprise. And then he said, perhaps we could just have a shadow of the Gruffalo. Is it really a monster? Is it just a shadow of some trees? But the publisher, again, it sounds as if, I mean, normally he does have a lot of free rein, but in this case, the publisher said, no, it's a book about a monster. We're going to sell far more copies if you see the monster on the front. We have to have that monster showing. So poor old Axel had to capitulate.
Had to reveal it. But it's a cute little monster. I'm sure it's attracted a lot of children to it. So maybe the publisher had some reason there. And your books have been translated into many languages?
Yes, well, the Gruffalo, I think, is in 74 languages now. Yeah, languages I didn't even know existed. Oh, thank you. And I've got some pictures of them, because mostly he's called things like Der Gruffalo, Le Gruffalo, and so on. But we've got some, I think that's the Irish one, still a G, Angarba, and it still sounds a bit similar. Next one. I don't know if there's anyone from South Africa. This is the what do you call it? The language. What's it called? The Dutch language in Afrikaans, or something like that. But some are quite different. Like the next one. Can we just see the next one? Mercury. I think that's Finnish. And the next one. I'm not even sure. I think that might be Serbian or something like that. I wouldn't know how to pronounce it. That's Russian, I believe. And then there's some which, can you see how the picture looks different there? Because that's, I think, the Arabic Gruffalo. And that's quite interesting because, see, the mouse is coming. And in this picture, the mouse is going from right to left, but in a book which starts this size, all the pictures are reversed, so the little mouse is going that way through the book instead of that way, so that was news to me. And I noticed in the, we were in New Zealand, and in the Maori edition of the book, they had to call him, I forget what he's called, but they only have about 8 or 12 consonants, so they maybe didn't have g or r or f, you know, so he was called something quite different. Have we got? I think that's the last one I've got there, isn't it? Yeah.
That's fabulous. And do you have any translation in Indian languages yet?
I don't
Oh.
think there was. I know there was an Indian audio edition many years ago, but whether there was a Hindi, I'd love it. If there's any publishers out
Yes,
there, I'd love it
listeners.
if you could have a
Hindi or Bangla.
Urdu. Yeah, that would be a real feather in my
Yes,
cap,
I
especially
know.
after this visit.
Yes,
I'd
absolutely.
love that.
We must have a Bangla Gruffalo.
Yes, then someone could coach me how to do it.
So since we've been talking so much about Gruffalo, would it be possible to see a bit of
To see
a
it.
performance
Okay,
of
I
Gruffalo?
never need much
No.
encouragement. In fact, I happen to have brought along a mouse's tail. I never get to be the Gruffalo. I always have to be the mouse. Oh. I quite like to be the Gruffalo one day. So I'm going to be the mouse. I think again maybe should put the table back.
Maybe at the side.
And we don't really need the little old ladies' table anymore.
I'll take it off.
No tables in the deep dark wood. Yeah. Okay, well, they're not quite the right setting for the Gruffalo. It's a little bit too open and sunny. So you'll need to imagine that we're in a deep, dark wood, and this little mouse is looking for a nice, ripe hazelnut to eat. Okay. A mouse took a stroll through the deep, dark wood. A fox saw the mouse, and the mouse looked good.
Where are you going to, little brown mouse? Come and have lunch in my underground house.
Oh, it's terribly kind of you, Fox, but no, I'm going to have lunch with a Gruffalo.
A Gruffalo? What's a Gruffalo?
A Gruffalo, why didn't you know? He has terrible tusks and terrible claws and terrible teeth in his terrible jaws.
Where are you meeting him?
Here, by these rocks. And his favourite food is roasted fox.
Roasted fox, I'm off.
Fox said,
Goodbye, little mouse.
and away he sped. Silly old fox, doesn't he know there's no such thing as a Gruffalo? On went the mouse through the deep, dark wood. An owl saw the mouse, and the mouse looked good.
Where are you going to, little brown mouse? Come and have tea in my treetop house.
It's frightfully nice of you, owl, but no, I'm going to have tea with a Gruffalo.
A Gruffalo? What's a Gruffalo?
A Gruffalo, why didn't you know? He has knobbly knees and turned out toes and a poisonous wart at the end of his nose.
Where are you meeting him?
Here, by this stream. And his favourite food is owl ice cream.
Owl ice cream? Twit woo! Goodbye, little mouse.
And away owl flew. Silly old owl, doesn't he know there's no such thing as a Gruffalo? On went the mouse through the deep, dark wood. A snake saw the mouse, and the mouse looked good.
Where are you going to, little brown mouse? Come for a feast in my log pile house.
It's wonderfully good of you, Snake. But no, I'm having a feast with a Gruffalo.
A Gruffalo? What's a Gruffalo?
A Gruffalo. Why didn't you know? His eyes are orange. His tongue is black. He has purple prickles all over his back.
Where are you meeting him?
Here, by this lake. And his favourite food is scrambled snake.
Scrambled snake, it's time I hid. Goodbye, little mouse.
And away Snake slid. Silly old snake. Silly old snake. Doesn't he know there's no such thing as a Gruffalo? Oh! But who is this creature with terrible claws and terrible teeth in his terrible jaws? He has knobbly knees and turned out toes and a poisonous wart at the end of his nose. His eyes are orange. His tongue is black. He has purple prickles all over his back. Oh, help. Oh, no. It's a Gruffalo.
My favourite food.
The Gruffalo said.
You'll taste good on a slice of bread.
Good, said the mouse. Don't call me good. I'm the scariest creature in this wood. Just walk behind me, and soon you'll see everyone is afraid of me,
All right.
said the Gruffalo, bursting with laughter.
You go ahead, and I'll follow after.
They walked and walked, till the Gruffalo said,
I hear a hiss in the leaves ahead.
It's Snake, said the mouse. Why, Snake, hello. Snake took one look at the Gruffalo,
Oh, crumbs.
he said,
Goodbye, little mouse.
and off he slid to his log pile house. You see, said the mouse, I told you so,
Amazing.
said the Gruffalo. They walked some more till the Gruffalo said,
Woo.
I hear a hoot in the trees ahead.
"Oh, it's Owl," said the mouse. Well, Owl, hello. Owl took one look at the Gruffalo,
Oh dear.
he said,
Goodbye, little mouse.
and off he flew to his treetop house. You see, said the mouse, I told you so,
Astounding.
said the Gruffalo. They walked some more till the Gruffalo said,
I can hear feet on the path ahead.
Oh, it's Fox,
Hi,
said the
guys.
mouse. Hi, Fox.
Enjoy the
hello.
show. Sort of thing. See the mouse.
Fox,
anywhere?
hello.
Hello.
Fox took one look at the Gruffalo,
Oh, help.
he said,
Goodbye, little mouse.
and off he ran to his underground house. Well, Gruffalo, said the mouse, you see, everyone is afraid of me. But now my tummy's beginning to rumble, and my favourite food is Gruffalo crumble.
Gruffalo crumble.
The Gruffalo said, and quick as the wind he turned and fled.
Oh.
All was quiet in the deep, dark wood. The mouse found a nut, and the nut was good. Thank you very much. I think I should introduce our actors. So the snake, can we just have the snake taking her curtain? Snake is Felicity she's a literary agent. She works in the same agency as my literary agent, Caroline Sheldon. And B. Cross, who was the owl, and also, she's back doing the PowerPoint, and she's from Macmillan, the publishers. So I'm very, very lucky to have them to help me. So I think I've just got a few more slides left. So we just get we can put these definitively back now. Thank you. Oh, thank you.
So thank you so much. I'm sure all of us are really pleased. We didn't think we'll get to see a performance of Gruffalo.
I must say, it was Malcolm's idea to use that costume because we do have a homemade costume because it can be acted very simply. All you need to do is make some little horns or something, or we sewed some purple prickles onto a brown jumper, so you don't have to have that big costume to do it.
This is fabulous. It is Gruffalo.
Yes, it is. It is.
And
Very hot in there.
yes,
actually.
I know. Especially in Calcutta, as
Yes,
hot as
that's in
it.
Calcutta.
So we were talking about illustrators before this, and we of course see mostly Axel Schreffer's work, but have you worked with others as well? And how do you go about choosing which will be the right one for you?
Yes. Well, I think I probably write a little bit faster anyway than if Axel was to illustrate everything I wrote. I don't think he'd have time, and he wouldn't want to. And some stories just aren't right for, it depends what the story's like. So the first book I wrote, which wasn't published, illustrated by Axel, was called The Magic Paintbrush, and there we are. So that's a beautiful illustrator, Joel Stewart. And I think if Axel had done it, I think he was offered it out of courtesy, but I think maybe he'd have been a bit too caricaturish. Maybe the Chinese characters would look a little bit too much like caricatures, whereas Joel Stewart's done lots of research into Oriental art, quite sophisticated style, really. So then another illustrator that I've worked with, that's Anna Curry. She's, I love her work. This is a counting book about a teddy bear who falls out of bed. So in this story, it's very important that the toys look like toys, but there's some real mice, and they have to look like real mice. So we chose an illustrator who's a bit more realistic than Axel, because I think if Axel had done it, it might be hard to distinguish. Yeah, so those little mice are mice, but those are dolls. So that's Anna Curry. But then the other end of the spectrum, this illustrator, David Roberts, he's very, very stylized. He did this book about dinosaurs, Tyrannosaurus Strip, and I love the way he's given the female dinosaur the sort of overbite and underbite for the other one. He's done about 5 or 6 books, and we've got a new one coming out together called The Cook and the King this year. And then next one. Oh, this Lydia Monks is probably my second biggest. We've done a lot of books together, and she's got a collage style. So can you see the wool is actually real wool, which she photographs and sticks on. And she often gives me ideas for the book. She'll say, "I'd like to do a book about a mermaid. I'd like to do a book about a unicorn." So she often feeds me ideas. That's our latest one together. Sorry. Okay. And then this is just a sketch from the wonderful Charlotte Volk, because I wrote a sequel to The Owl and the Pussycat. I was invited to do that, and I love Edward Lear, and I wouldn't normally write a sequel to someone else's book, but it was like my tribute to one of my favorite authors, and it turned out that Charlotte Volk felt just the same about Edward Lear as I did, and has something of his own, because he was a painter, landscape painter, and she had a quite Lear-esque style, which was just right for that book. Those are sketches again from Emily Gravett. I don't know if you know her work. She usually does her own very witty, quite sophisticated texts. On this one occasion, she agreed to illustrate mine, but then she said never again. Not that I was difficult in any way, but I think she prefers to just have her own ideas and do both. And this is a book called The Paper Dolls, and this illustrator, Rebecca Cobb, is wonderful. We got about 6 or 7 illustrators before to do sketches, and these, do you know about paper dolls where you fold them and cut them out? So I can see you've got it. Yes, so the paper dolls have to look sort of the same as each other, but they've all got their individual characters, and yeah, she's just done it perfectly. She brought such a lot to that book. And then most recently, the detective dog. I think I did offer that one to Axel, but it's set in the modern day with real life children, and Axel tends to prefer more fantasy-based stories. So we got Sarah Ogilvie to do it, and she's got lovely sense of movement. I think her adults are brilliant, and her children. It's a lot of illustrators, funny enough, find it hard to draw children. So there's lots of children in that book, not so many animals as usual. So that's just a selection of all the ones. It's very interesting working with different illustrators, but it's always a bit nail-biting when you get sent the first illustrations. I have to have a stiff G&T or something before I open and have a look.
So it's wonderful, and you can see how distinctly different each of them are, and how beautifully they just sit with your book. It's beautiful. But these are all picture books that we spoke about so far,
Yes.
but you've also written a few fiction.
I have.
What
I
about
won't
that?
say a lot about the fiction because I know time's passing quickly, and maybe some people want to
Ask
ask
questions,
questions.
yes.
But I've got a couple. This is again Lydia Monk's, the more collagey illustrator. But I've written quite a lot of stories, and they're not girly stories. They're not. She's called Princess Mirabelle, but she's more like an E. Nesbit character, or a bit like Pippi Longstocking or someone. She's very outrageous. She comes out of the mirror and she tells a whole lot of fibs, probably. You never know if she's telling the truth. And she gets the real life girl into endless trouble, but they have fun as well. So Lydia just did line drawings for those. And then slightly older, The Giants and the Joneses was inspired by one of my sons who loves collecting. He loved collecting things. So I wrote a story about a girl giant who likes collecting human things. You know, she'll collect, if she collected a pillar box, she would use it as a money box, you know, and if she so I love that idea of scale. And she collects some human children, the Jones family, and they have to escape. And they escape by learning the language of the giants. I made up a whole language. There's a dictionary in the back of Groilish. And I think there's one more. That's my teenage book, which is, I hope, it's meant to be quite pacey and exciting, but it has got some more deep themes. There's a bit of a theme of one of the characters has a mental illness, and there's a sort of refugee type theme as well. It's not a dark book really, but they're very, very different from my picture books.
Definitely. P.S., like you said, we are running close to the end of the session, so we can take maybe a few questions, if that's just 3 or 4 questions. Do we have mics
Do
in
we
the
have
audience?
a roving microphone?
Yeah. So,
I'm going to, by the way, ask for the question to be repeated, because I wear hearing aids and I may not hear the question very well even with the microphone.
Good afternoon, ma'am. Other than my daughter being a huge fan, I am a huge fan of yours, and she reads your books over and over again, but more than her, I am into your books. So my question to you is, what inspires you to get that first thought about a book? What is that thing that, it clicks in your head, no, I should write about this? The first thought that comes to your mind that you should write about this, or maybe you should make a story out of it.
You see, that's the easy part. I did understand. I think, did everyone hear that question all right?
yes.
Yeah, so, the question is, how do I get that initial spark?
Yes.
That's quite easy, I don't know, anything. It could be a conversation, it could be just a thought that comes to my mind, but the hard part is developing it, So I've got lots and lots of little initial thoughts there. Sometimes you have one idea and it might stay in your mind for years, and then you get another idea and you think, yes, it's like 2 stones and they can spark something off each other. But the thing is, when I wrote the songs, that was quite easy in a way, because I would just write a song about horrible smells or something. I did once have to write a song about horrible smells. So I would just I'd write 3 verses, and the third verse would have the most horrible smells in. The first verse would be quite horrible, second verse middlingly horrible, third verse really horrible smells. And that would be that. But with a book, I mean, you don't have to write the tune, but to actually get the plot, develop that initial idea, that's what I find maddeningly difficult. But I think it's worth spending time on that, because otherwise the story would be just too obvious, really.
There's a mic. There's a question there. Could you pass the mic?
I have a question for you. What percentage of your books are sold as ebooks? Like,
How many you got?
could you put a figure to it?
What percentage of her books are sold as ebooks?
I think just the fiction titles are sold as ebooks. Not the
picture books.
not the picture books.
Yes.
So I can't exactly say what percentage. Oh, you mean within the fiction books? So like the Giants and the Joneses, I think maybe 20% of the sales might be ebooks, if that, or less. Most of them would be physical books, and for the picture books, none of them are ebooks.
Hi. It's
She
actually a
has another
question for about Morris Sendak's Where the Wild Things Are. Yeah. So there's the picture where the character is on the stairs, and there's a little frame at the background with a
Yes.
monster.
Yes.
Was that by any chance inspired Gruffalo's character?
No, not at all.
No?
Well, for a start, if you were asking that question to anyone, you would ask Axel. Because
Yes.
no, I mean, the thing is that the Morris Sendak creatures themselves are probably inspired by gargoyles on old cathedrals. Or if you look, there's monsters throughout history, throughout art, who pretty well, they've got, nasty tusks and horns, and they look fierce. And I'm always surprised when people think that, because Axel's style is so very, very, very different from Morris Sendak. I mean, I suppose I am guilty of saying terrible. Morris Sendak says, the wild things have terrible this and terrible that. But again, I think you can be excused for using the word terrible in conjunction with a monster.
Absolutely.
It's fairly standard. So no, I don't think there was any. I don't think Axel was very surprised the first time anyone asked him that question.
Hi. Good afternoon, ma'am. I just wanted to know, how can we encourage the children nowadays to write, be more interested in writing, and to be more creative?
Well, I mean, sometimes encouragement by a parent can be the kiss of death. I think when I used to write stories and things, it was because I wanted them, certainly not because my parents were saying, why don't you write a story? I think that I'm a big fan of reading, and libraries. So I think to take your child to the library where the books are free. I don't know what the situation here is with public libraries actually, but to borrow books from the library, read them, to go out and take your children out. And when my children were out in the woods, they'd pick up a stick, and that stick could be that's partly why I wrote Stickman, because a stick could be an ice cream cone, or it could be a sword or a pencil or something. I think also playing family games is good. We used to play a lot of pencil and paper games, those heads, bodies and legs.
Yes.
You draw a head, you fold the paper over, and then you draw a body, and then you fold it over and draw some legs, so you're creating characters, or even consequences. You say,
Yes.
horrible Richard met beautiful Jennifer at the ice rink. He said to her, she said to, and you pass the paper around, and all those sort of fun games, but not to try and put pressure on, really, because not every child's going to want to write stories.
Mike was.
Good afternoon. I love the book, The Smartest Giant in Town. Could you tell us something about the making of the book? And it has a
Can you put the
wonderful.
microphone a bit nearer?
It has a wonderful message in the book, and I want to know a little about the making of the book.
Okay.
This is the book, The Smartest Giant.
The Smartest
Cheers.
Giant in Town. In America, it's called The Spiffiest Giant in Town because in America the word smart means clever, whereas in English the word smart means nicely dressed.
She
Well,
wanted to add a point to the same question. Yeah.
Oh.
No, I mean, you can continue, but my 7-year-old son had the same question, and he asked if the smartest giant in town is a real person.
Oh. Well, I don't really like to disillusion your 7-year-old son. Maybe he's a little bit like my husband. No, I think really the inspiration was nothing to do with the message. Again, it was more like, the book I talked about the giants and the Joneses with the scale. I'm very interested, for some reason, I don't know why, in scale. So as a child, I loved the burrowers, books about the burrowers. They're little humans, really, like humans, little miniature people who live under the floorboards. And so they take things from, and so every time you say, where's my pen gone? Probably the burrowers have taken it, but they won't be using it as a pen. If you're missing a chess piece, a knight from a chessboard, maybe it'll be in the burrower's house as a statue. If you've lost a postage stamp, maybe it'll be on their wall as a portrait. So The Smartest Giant in Town really is about how clothes, a giant's sock could be a sleeping bag for a very small creature. So, yes, he's a nice character, but I'm not setting out to say, children, you must be very generous and kind and give things to needy people. At all, that's not the starting point.
I think we need to go because there's another session after this. Thank you so much, Julia, and thank you everyone for being here.
Thank you very much. Shall I take this?